welcome back to SF Live. I'm your host, Myrna Lim. Tonight we have a candidate for mayor in the city of San Francisco, a very fascinating woman. She is known in the papers and in the media as the venture capitalist candidate in this mayor's race. However, her life story belies that. Her life story is the one that is made for the movies. As a matter of fact, when she walked in, I asked her, if somebody has to play you, who would that be? I says, don't take Angelina Jolie, that's already taken. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, I would like for you to meet Ms. Joanna Rees, and so she can tell you everything that you need to know about what a good mayor would be. Hi, how are you, Joanna?
I'm very well, thank you.
So, how's the campaign coming along?
It's coming along really well.
Great. You've been doing a lot of door-to-door.
Yes.
You've been doing a lot of merchant walks. You've been in the buses, and both the Chronicle and the Examiner have talked about you and featured you as one of the hardest working candidates in this race.
Absolutely. We've been out engaging directly with voters. We've knocked on more than 200,000 doors.
Oh my God.
I've done 34 merchant walks and met with almost 2,000 merchants.
Wow.
And then thousands upon thousands of voters at morning bus stops and in neighborhood talks.
You know, that's quite fascinating because really you come into this race as kind of an unknown, right? I mean, you're competing against candidates who have been public officials forever. You've got Leland Yee, you've got Dennis Herrera, Phil Ting, Jeff Adagio, so many. But I don't know if they're doing door-to-door. I would think they are. So for somebody who has just come in to the political scene, you have made quite a mark for yourself, haven't you?
Yeah, I spent 2 years going neighborhood by neighborhood before I decided to run. And I always say I discovered the silent rational majority in San Francisco.
Okay.
But most importantly, I heard from people we need a new approach to our long-term persistent challenges. I also spent time with mayors, former mayors here as well as mayors around the country. And often they said, give me your hand. And don't forget that voters want to touch you. A mayor's race is a local race, and you have to get out there with the people.
Right. Now let's talk about your life story. Very fascinating. So your folks came from Italy.
My grandparents did.
Your grandparents, and then what happened?
They came.
This is the
American
success story.
Exactly.
So.
They were, the typical immigrants who came. One worked in a laundromat because that's the type of job that they could get with, especially without a U.S.-based education. I had a great grandfather who opened a fruit stand.
Okay.
And when the Italians would come from Italy, they were very fearful of putting their money into a bank, and they trusted him from the home country, so they started to give him their money. And he ultimately was holding money of so many different neighbors and friends.
Wow.
He went out and got a bank charter and became the first Italian-owned bank in the state of New Jersey.
Wow. That's excellent.
So an entrepreneurial story.
Right. And then you yourself, okay, so you were a gymnast, and your parents were working class people who started their businesses, right?
Yeah,
what were your parents doing?
My father was the first generation. My parents actually, both of them got a college education. My father was the first generation of his family to get a college education. My mother was a teacher, and my father was an entrepreneur before anyone knew what that word meant. He always would come up with a new idea and try to do something different that created jobs and improved a local economy.
And he owned like small hotels and so forth?
When he first started, he actually was in the building business. They built homes. He started a construction company with his brother, and then he was passionate about railroads, and he got involved in the railroad business, and at one point he also then got into hotels. So,
you were a gymnast by trainings, and that taught you a lot of discipline and hard work and so on and so forth, and that kind of pretty much trained you for the kind of successes you've been having. Tell us what happened. You were a gymnast, and then
Well, so first of all, I did gymnastics through college, and gymnastics, it takes a tremendous amount of discipline, and it wasn't a sport that you do just for a season.
Right.
I had to go all year, and I was a science major in college, which meant that I always had early classes because I had to be in a gym in the afternoon. But the thing that you learn in gymnastics is how to stay incredibly centered.
Right.
You really learn how to really focus and to drown out the noise, and I can tell you in the campaigning process, it's a great skill to have learned.
Exactly. And then you had gone to school. You went to Duke University, right?
Yes.
And then you went to work. I mean, what I'm trying to see is how you had become a successful venture capitalist from not having any monies and having gone through some life story like you did.
Yeah, so I went to Duke. I thought I was going to go to medical school. This is why I always say internships are so important, because I worked at Duke Hospital my last year, and I didn't like being in the hospital.
Oh, okay.
I love the science, and I found I would come home and cry when people were sick.
I hate the sight of blood.
Well, it wasn't even the sight of blood. It was just more, I think I had too much empathy for my patients.
You feel so sorry for them.
I did. So I went to New York and got a job in advertising, and after 4 months, I got promoted very quickly. I won a competition among all the new employees, and I thought, I'm pretty good at this, so I stayed with it.
Right. Yeah. And then you got married after that? Or?
Yeah, so I started in advertising. I went over to the client side. I worked for a large consumer products company that was based in France, but its U.S. brands are Dannon Yogurt and Evian Water, and I ended up running a large portion of our brands in the United States, and I did get married and then had a young child right at the same time I went back to business school.
Right.
Yeah.
And then how did you come up with forming a venture capital firm?
I was working, first of all, I thought when I was in business school, I took a venture capital course, and I thought, oh, I love this. This is like what my dad did, being entrepreneurs and helping entrepreneurs.
Right.
And when I came out to the West Coast, people said, oh, you need to have transaction experience. You should go work in banking. And I did that for a few years. And then I was helping raise money for early stage companies, helping entrepreneurs raise money. And then I kept seeing that even if they raised money, they often the company failed. And I thought, I wonder why they failed. And when I looked at so many technology companies that failed, more often than not, they built the technology they said they would, but they didn't. They failed because they didn't understand their markets and their customers. And I thought, what if I could take a market-driven approach to venture capital investing? And so I decided to start my own firm with that idea.
That's excellent. Now, how did you come through the process of deciding to run for mayor?
I had an incredible mentor in my life, a woman named Ann Richards, who was the first elected female governor of Texas.
Oh, I love listening to her.
Yeah, so Ann was my assigned mentor in a leadership program, and she instilled in me I had an obligation to go into public service.
Right.
But she said, make sure you have your professional achievement first, so it really is about service and give back to your community. And then she also said, as a mother, it'll be easier if your children are older.
Exactly.
But I spent 2 years going neighborhood by neighborhood and listening to people, and that's when I said, I have to step up and run. And I always say my moment of obligation, though, was when I became convinced the only way we'll significantly impact public education is if the mayor makes it a high-level priority, and that was a commitment that for me to the community.
Right, exactly. So given the status of the economy today, and given the budget problems statewide, nationwide, how would you use your experiences to improve the situation for the city of San Francisco?
So I've always had to manage budgets by setting priorities and making decisions without a safety net. And I believe in San Francisco we have to go department by department and do zero-based or bottom-up budgeting. We have to figure out what's the investment that we need to make in critical services that support the community, and we have to apply the discipline to look at what are some things that we're funding that are no longer meeting their intended purpose, and therefore we need to allocate those dollars somewhere else.
Right. And what is your plan to create jobs?
We do a very good job in San Francisco of having entrepreneurs start here, but they often move as they scale. And then we've lost so many large employers, AT&T, AAA, Workman's Comp, Chevron, who have left because of the employee payroll tax. So I believe corporations should pay their fair tax, but I believe we should eliminate the employee payroll tax across the city, not just for a 5-block area of Market Street, and not tax stock options, because we have a lot of years of data that show it's a job killer.
Right. How about the how would you improve the situation for small businesses? President Obama is trying to roll out a job creation plan, but his concept on small businesses is to reduce their taxes. But I mean, if you have money, yes, that would work. Because then you can shelter your income. But if you don't have the cash and you need infusion, then it's a different story. And banks, unfortunately, with all the bailouts they've had, are just not lending. As a mayor of San Francisco, how would you help struggling small businesses, which basically I think have really suffered the brunt of this great recession?
Well, the small businesses have suffered in the recession, but they've also suffered because the city has imposed so many additional licenses and permits on small businesses, and also continued to increase the costs of those. So in all the merchants that I've met with, they always take me over to their wall of licenses and permits, and they'll tell me when I started I needed 3, and now I need more than 10. The most expensive used to be $100 or $200. Now some of them are over $1,000. We our merchants are the backbones of our neighborhoods, and we're breaking their back with these additional costs, and so we need to alleviate a number of those. There's also the question of how do then we help in other areas where maybe small businesses don't exist. How do we help create them? And this is where I think we have to partner with the private sector, and have the private sector invest in local entrepreneurs, match those local entrepreneurs to some of the great entrepreneurs that are already in our community in order to revitalize some of our neighborhoods.
Now, I'm from the Excelsior district, and my pet peeve is parking tickets. I just hate. It started off $20 and $30. Now it's $55, and if you don't pay it within 21 days, it becomes $80. The city seems to have just used parking tickets as an ATM sort of machine. What do you think about that?
So I think you're absolutely right, and I think it's the wrong way to bring in revenue. Parking ticket in 2003 was $35. By 2010, that had gone up to $65, and real income had gone up about 3% over that time period. So why did a parking ticket almost double? And then I don't know if you've tried to pay your parking ticket online, but you pay an additional $2 processing fee, which is there's no one to process it. And there's so much that we could do to really alleviate the burden put on working class people related to the fines for parking, and how it deters people from shopping in different neighborhoods and has a really a negative impact on merchants.
I mean, why would you go to why would you shop, say, in the Ingleside area and risk getting a ticket when you can just easily go to Tanforan or Serramonte?
It happens all the time. And we're not supporting our local businesses through that.
That's a deterrent. The City Hall is kind of a good old boys network. How do you fathom breaking through that? You've got guys or department heads who've had the jobs for 30 or 40 years. Look at Ed Lee, right? How are you, from an outsider, going in? How would you process that?
Well, I know how to work in the good old boys club because I did it in venture capital, and I bootstrapped my way in. But in terms of working with different department heads, it really starts with respect, and it's respecting that people are in a position, and therefore we have to work together. And the one thing I know that I've had tremendous experience doing, and I'm good at, is finding common ground and finding a way to really work with people so that we know where we have that common ground and how do we use that as a platform to move something forward.
That's great. What do you think of this healthcare reform? And because the city of San Francisco has the Healthy San Francisco, and at some point the Golden Gate Association had sued them, and then they lost the appeal and so forth. It's the
the Golden Gate Restaurant Association?
I don't even know where that is at now.
Well, I think Healthy San Francisco is a great thing. I think providing health care for especially preventive care. What we don't want people doing is only going when there's an emergency. We want people to understand their health and wellness. And I think it's a great program that's in place, and it actually needs to be expanded so we can include everyone in our community, and also give people the opportunity to access health care if something happened to them outside of the city of San Francisco, which it doesn't extend beyond our borders right now.
Do you think the Golden Gate Restaurant Association has any, their lawsuit has any merit, and because they, quote, represent small businesses, restaurants, and they're concerned for their constituency, that they're small businesses, and therefore the health ordinance puts a burden on them? Do you think
I think we put lots of burdens on them. In fact, I've been told by many restaurateurs that restaurants in San Francisco have the lowest profit margins of restaurants of any major city in America. But I don't think Healthy San Francisco should be the target. I think there's lots of other additional burdens that we put on restaurants that we need to really look at, because Healthy San Francisco does serve people in the community.
Right. So you've been talking about education. How do you approach the young ones, the children, the teenagers, in terms of how they could learn how to budget, how they could learn how to save money? We are in a difficult times now, and a lot of kids grew up just having everything given to them. And now with this economy, everybody has to scrimp and save and so forth. You have been teaching, right, young people in terms of in your mentorship programs?
I've been involved with locally with something called NIFTY, the Network for Teaching Entrepreneurship, teaching entrepreneurial skills to young people, primarily in 9th grade. And we found that when young people learn how to create their own business, it gives them an incentive to stay in school. And it's a great program. They learn how to budget. They learn how to manage a business.
Right. Now, what other changes do you see would be critical in trying to make San Francisco a little bit better place for the middle class, for families? The rents are exorbitant.
I think public education is where it starts. I think the mayor has to be the chief education advocate for the city and bring together all the community resources that need to come together to positively impact our public schools. I am a proponent of neighborhood schools, but high quality neighborhood schools. I actually believe we should put grades on schools so we understand how a school is performing, and then we know where to allocate resources for an underperforming school.
There is an initiative on the ballot, the neighborhood.
Yes.
That's Chris Miller working on that. Are you working with it?
I'm a supporter. That initiative is really more of a declaration. There's not a lot of teeth in it, but I think it's a strong message to send back to the district that families do want neighborhood schools. When I'm at bus stops in the morning, I ask people, they'll say, well, I don't know if I'll be here in November because we're thinking about moving because we have a child and we want to move before they start school to another city. And I say, is it uncertainty about placement or quality? And they said it's a bit of both, but mostly about uncertainty on placement. People want to know that they can access a high quality school in their neighborhood, and that doesn't exist today.
So how do you deal with the tough areas like, the Tenderloin, Bayview, Hunters Point, those areas when you go door to door and when you take the buses? People are people. I just engage with people. I find that people are very open. If you go up and talk with people and have a conversation, that people are very open, and I have never felt nervous. I've always felt very supported by people in the community. So what is the biggest, within your debates, what's the biggest issue that you guys argue about in these debates?
I'm not sure if there's a big issue. I always said from the beginning I felt like I was an important voice in the dialogue because I spent 2 years really listening to people about what they thought the issues were. And that's why I introduced public education as the primary, the number one issue on my platform, that and making sure that we keep all the great jobs in San Francisco, because 25% of our working population commutes out of the city every day. So for me, it was introducing the bringing into the conversation public education and job creation. Now everyone else is talking about it, so it's a good thing.
There's a sheriff's race going on. Do you have any? What's your take on the sheriff's race at the moment?
I have been so focused on our race with going to 200,000 doors as a campaign team. We're on the ground every day out there engaging in voters, and I haven't thought about the other races.
Well, with the debates that's going on with the sheriff's races, a lot of them are talking about reducing truancy in schools, that even though they'll be managing the prison system, that they are working outside of the prison system to prevent more of a preventive sort of measure to make sure that the kids do not go into the path of crime. And the mayor's office has the criminal justice system and the probation department and so on and so forth. So that, with that kind of power as a mayor, you have a lot of control in being able to assign resources.
Yeah, and I think we have to we have to create community schools. We have to bring other additional resources on site to the schools, whether that's social work, mental health care, as well as after school programs. We put the entire burden on teachers right now, and teachers need to focus on teaching in the classroom, and kids need a lot of other supportive resources. And so I think it's just critically important that we provide those resources on site at the school, and then give kids after school programs where they don't have to leave school to access them, but they can be in one safe place during the whole day.
So describe what your typical day is like running for office.
It starts at the bus stops.
Okay.
At 6:45 or 7 in the morning, and meeting with voters. And after the bus stops, it's about getting out in the neighborhoods. It's doing merchant walks. It's spending time fundraising. It's participating in candidate forums. It's being here with people like you. And then it continues into the evening with different debates and things. And I get home between. It's
a full-time job.
15-hour day.
Oh my God. Yeah. So how do people help you and contact you? The absentee ballots are going to be coming out, the 7th? So in a couple of weeks.
In a couple of weeks.
So this is the real deal now. How do people, we have like about a minute.
They go to our website, Join Joanna, JOANNA.com is the best way to contact us. My email is also joanna@joinjoanna.com if they want to contact me directly. And on our website, you can sign up to volunteer, you can put a sign, and you can ask for a sign for your window. People can make contributions. I even had a woman send me $1. She said, I don't have any money, but I really admire your courage and determination. And she sent me $1, and that $1 really mattered.
Excellent. Well, ladies and gentlemen, we have about 30 seconds to go, and we're delighted that Joanna Rees was able to join us tonight. And she's an interesting candidate. You never know what would happen with ranked choice voting. Look at what happened to Malia Cohen. So we're delighted to watch your campaign. It seems that you're working very hard, and good luck.
Thank you so much.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us tonight, and we'll see you again next time. This is Myrna Lim, your host. Good night.